let's move on to the next speaker. As introduced, we have around 3 speakers coming from the large organizations. We'll start with the French Space Agency, the CNES, with Julien Airaud, and then we'll have Massimo Mercati from ESA, and then after the break, Stefano Ianniti from GSA. The goal is to understand how these large organizations handle security. They have large programs, large space programs for science, for a lot of different applications, complex systems, even launching launchers operations for the CNES. Let's hear about Julien. His talk is mostly oriented on the lessons learned. He's been witnessing how security has evolved in the CNES in the last 10 years, and he will give us the perspective of how this is changing and how things are moving, hopefully into the right direction. This is the goal. Julien, I think you should be able to hear us. Good morning.
Good morning, Julien.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. So, Julien Airaud, you said everything already. Cybersecurity Program Manager at CNES.
Yeah. So
CNES is not.
Feel free to. Yeah, you're just checking with the team if you're full screen. Everything okay with you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got you. Perfect. Thank you, Julien. The floor is yours. I'll let you continue. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. So I'm working at CNES, and CNES, you said it's a large agency, but we're not that large. We'll come back to that after. But what's sure is that we are old. This year, in December, we'll be 60 years old. And so this means that as a space actor, we are risk takers, of course, like everyone in this audience. But as risk takers, we have scars as well, and our goal is, of course, to continue to take risk in this wonderful space adventure, but by taking this risk, trying to avoid as much as possible scars. I said we are not that large. CNES is 2,400 women and men, but we are working with 70 countries and international organizations, which kind of set the stage on what it means to run a space project at an agency level. And whether you're working with launchers, applications, defense, being Earth observation or electronic intelligence, Earth observation, climate observation, universe exploration, whatever. You get issues and you get to collaborate and you have to deal with it. And that's a 10-year journey I propose you, because I joined CNES 10 years ago. And when I arrived at CNES, the oldest trace of cybersecurity I found was from a patent issued to CNES from 1991 on proxy firewalls. And since then, we built a security culture that was geared towards really monolithic systems. They were supporting many years lasting missions. We had, like everyone else, we had a lot of technological depths and limits. For example, our wireless connection were really limited. We had not a lot of remote access and so on. So that's quite the usual for 2011, but nevertheless, it's worth mentioning. Our configuration and vulnerability patch management were all far from being perfect, and this led to a situation I will show you just afterwards. But our cybersecurity culture was not fit, I would say. We were the no-sayer, and it led us to a dead end. That by saying no to a lot of things, we closed doors that nevertheless were reopened by users. So you can't avoid things to happen. And as a cybersecurity practitioner, you have to be the one saying yes, but, and you make things happen in a secure fashion, in a secure way. But if we go back 10 years ago, This not fit culture was based on a monolithic approach when it came to security. When we saw that one size fits all process were okay, we were dealing with everything the same way. A lot of protection based on hardening. I would say hardening all the way. This is really what where we were spending most of our investments. We had no SOC, no CM, and we had a lot of logs, but they were used only in case of incidents. And that's led to whoops, I'm sorry. That led to a situation where 10 years ago, November, end of the month, we find out that we had one website climbing to our top one of rejected site on our proxies. And this issued a lot of, this triggered a lot of alarms at CNES because this was more than Google traffic and in deny, I mean. And all this traffic was only issued by 13 workstation. And having 13 workstation issuing this traffic was, of course, an issue. We quickly had some investigation, find, of course, the 13 users that clicked on a phishing email, a spear phishing email. Of course, you get that already. But we were at a dead end on our investigation because they were all from different departments, and they were all trained against phishing. So this drew and rang more alarms for us, and we went in full crisis management and started to investigate, and that led to something very special. Nearly 2 or 3 months afterwards, we found out, if we start from the left, we found out that nearly 100 malicious emails were sent on overall, and they were all containing different malicious codes depending on the wave of the email. All were using a spoof identity from CNES, and of course the malicious code were very professionally crafted for CNES, not detected by any antivirus until we submitted the binary. After, of course, we reverse engineered them until we submitted the binaries to our vendors. Once we dig into that emails, we found out that all users, whether they were from human resource, finance, technical department, operations, and so on, they were all involved in a specific Earth observation project, one which is called Pleiad. It's a dual satellite made of two satellites, for optical Earth observation. And when we came back to the workstation of the users that we had contained within the network, they were all trying to contact a lot of websites. That was it for us. After a few months of crisis, we went back to a normal situation. We had some lessons learned, of course, user awareness, really important. Cooperation is key as well between IT, cyber, and the users, and of course authorities, because we had, due to our status, work with authorities, which was for the win for us. But definitely we lacked some detection and reaction capacity. So we got a SOC. That was a plus for us in our misery. And that was it for us. We got a SOC. We improved. We made some drills and so on until June 2014. When CrowdStrike, so a US company, mainly based at that time on threat intelligence, was issuing a report called Putter Panda Advanced Persistent Threats. In this report, they attributed this attack to the People's Liberation Army from China, a unit which is well known now. And CNES was mentioned on the report, but the fact that CNES was mentioned was not really important, is that we found a lot of our indicator of compromise that were present on our information system 3 years ago, and so it made things official. We knew, we estimated that due to the attack we had, the way it was stealth in our network, it had to be a state-sponsored attack, but at that time it was not that common, and 2014, we had the official information. We had clues. That led that passed away a road for us that led us to 2020. And when it came to a few statistics on 2020, so 9 years after, we still have a lot of malware inside our systems, but for example, we were able to intercept 1,000 unique malware internally, not outside, internally. So that means that the code that is able to bypass our external gateways, email gateways, proxy gateways, and so on, and multiple antivirus vendors. But we are still able to intercept them. Our SOC, or SOC V1, is able to handle nearly 200 incidents, and we always have on the run a crisis or an incident management which is related to something like Putter Panda. So it became really common for us. It doesn't say it's not successful, but it became the usual. It's something you have to be prepared of as soon as you're in this sector. We also had some feedbacks on the lockdowns in France. Between the two lockdowns, we figured out that we had a lot of requests to our desk related to malicious software. We are not sure about why, but nearly all our users worked remotely. We were able to handle our critical ground segment operation with only 75 people on site. All the rest was at home. And of course, when they came back from home, they had some issues related to malicious software, and we had to deal with that. And of course, targeted attack through emails augmented from small amount of 5%. It's not that much, and year over year, our overall security incident decreased. When at the same time we increased our attack surface because we deployed a lot of laptops. Nearly all the workstations at CNES are now laptops due to the lockdowns. And we equipped our contractor, a lot of people, and we published a lot of applications on the internet. And nevertheless, we find out that the thing that saved us against Putter Panda 9 years ago, the hardening, which was part of our culture, is still saving us. So we thought that we had to do something to adapt because a lot of things has changed, but hardening was still something we needed to maintain. The problem is how do you maintain hardening when everything is changing around you? And first, space is changing, of course. We already heard a lot about it yesterday and this morning. Missions being smallsat or constellations are totally different from what we had in the past. So time to space drops. We have to develop things differently. We have to procure things differently. We mentioned a lot of cloud perspective yesterday. Of course, we have our share as well, and I heard the bell and whistle yesterday, but it's our feedback and our experience on that it's not that happy, and we have had a lot of issue and drawbacks with cloud, and so maybe we can come back on this in the question, because I don't develop much, but nevertheless, the overall supply chain, which is kind of trending now as on the publication, but we observe that our supply chain is very more complex, and you have to maintain a security healthy posture from design to end of life of the system. That's really something kind of new for us. That's something that has changed. The perimeters change a lot as well. We now have a lot of different categories for system. Latest one, scientific system, support system, it's where we have the most of cloud application and operational technology, increase drastically our attack surfaces. Issues we have with operational technology is that every component we had in our cybersecurity laboratories, we were able to hack them. They are full of vulnerabilities. They are very badly developed most of the time, and I'm talking about surveillance camera, environment monitoring sensors. They are all very, I would say, sorry for my French, crappy developed. And it's really an issue when it comes to vulnerability management and patch management when you had a really growing and evolving threats that you have to face. We already mentioned state-sponsored attack, but they are not the only one. Criminal groups are always are still a reality. We face a higher volume, a higher variety, speeds, unlimited skills. So everything that the cyber team has to face when we have a skills shortage, of course, it's in every country like this. We had a not fit culture process that was not adapted to our needs. And still in the publication, we just seen the first presentation this morning. Attack can be complex, but it's always easier than defense. Once your satellite, when your system is up and running, it's always, if your security was badly designed, it's always hard to correct. So the real question is, are we doomed to fail? And of course, we answered by no, and we had to do something. So we ask the question how to cope to this, and of course you have to weigh that are proposed to you when you are at this crossroad. You have standards which are really good, CCSDS one. You have to compare, you have to benchmark yourself, but you have to use something. So choose what suits you best. But cybersecurity framework, which has been standardized by ISO at the beginning of the year, is also a good tool that we use. But we also have to mix with regulation. So we are not in the national application of the EU Network and Information Security Directive. We are not yet concerned by this directive, but in the version 2, space will be dealt with as an essential sector. So that's something most of the European actors will need to respect. In France, we have also the military programming law, which considers space assets as a critical national infrastructure. And your national regulation agency has also a lot to say about it, and they have a lot of state of the art. So you have to mix everything and find your way within this whole set of tools. So what we did is we adopted a balanced approach. In fact, we adopt many. So starting from NIST CYSAT or the ISO standard, when it comes to this concept of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, we mapped our monolithic process or culture. We are kind of an in-between right now, and we still have a target which is trying to cover everything in a balanced approach again, but we reduce the way and the importance of some of our activities to increase the importance of the rest. Told you 9 years ago we were really bad on detection and response. Now we are trying to cover everything from a policy, audit, project support, and cyber programs operation. I will just give you a few details about it right now. First, we updated our organization and policies. If this is not well done, everything will not work properly. We decided to blend security, protection, and cybersecurity. So to mix the cybersecurity space with the physical space in order to have a streamline of our process. And again, this balanced approach that we were looking for. So we have a central entity establishing policy and all which is transversal, like audits and programs. We have a squad of security architects directly linked to operational project manager, operational directorate, trying to prescribe security to project and missions. And then cybersecurity expert team has been consolidated to handle the support and all our cybersecurity operation. And of course, we made sure that our policies were according to this organization, very practical and directly applicable to system, thus avoiding to have too much engineering from our teams and from our structure and system. If we look at the central entity responsibility, the first one is audit, which is really important for us. You don't have, yesterday we talked a little bit about certification, and the issue it is, for us, it's not an issue, it's a way to improve. It's really how regulation, certification brings us a lot of good things and progress perspective. So we went from a yearly plan that we still have, based mainly on code review, penetration testing, and traditional audits, to more, I would say, like the threats have hoped for a vast variety. We now have a lot of tools like red teams on physical perimeters. We have bug bounties running, and we have a laboratory to evaluate component over the shelf security. And while I mentioned some targets, of course, websites are always a good target for practicing, but it's easy to compromise a website. So we prefer to focus on operational critical system like time and frequency system, of course, mission centers, operational centers, but also our support system. And what was mentioned, operational technology. So energy and cooling management system are really under scrutiny at CNES. And of course, our IoT network. We do a lot of testing, hardening, and so on. So that's really important for us because it contributes to what we call the transversal security program and project, which is basically the entity I manage at CNES, managing a services portfolio on a lot of service you can find on cybersecurity. It's ranging from user awareness training to trust and crypto tools. We are also managing all the transversal and compliance security project at CNES for all sites and all activities. We do a lot of procurement because due to regulation, we have some constraint like common criteria adoption for security product, but we also use a lot of qualified and certified services from our national cybersecurity agency. And our role also is based on standard regulation community to prepare the future. So we run research and development programs on cybersecurity technology to adapt them to space, whether it's applying CCSDS standard or it's completing it by, let's say, for example, detection capacity for CCSDS protocols. And how do we do that? We also had a massive evolution of one-fits-all process. I won't go into detail on this, but basically everything starts from our sensitivity analysis. And depending on the sensitivity of the system, we have different process to go from zero and design to production. And this was allowed by the fact that we have our cybersecurity operations team that is always watching everything. We have audits capacity and the program that is able to provide any services we require when a system is in development. So we have this short loop and feedback loop in order to have everything aligned to our mission's needs. And the last thing we built at CNES was our cybersecurity operations team. So it's a team designed by CNES, but it's run by a managed security services provider since around 6 months, I would say. Everything started from the you have to know you and me motto. And so we started from CERT and the cyber threat intelligence we were already using. We consolidated everything and wanted that every indicator of compromise was an actionable within our security system. So they are deployed to a SOC, of course, and we built two different, remember, we abandoned our one-size-fits-all process. So we have now two SOCs because we have different needs, and one which is highly regulated and the other who are less regulated. So we have 2 SOC services. We have a lot of automation now. Intrusion detection services. We monitor on a continuous basis our security levels, and we operate again our security system with a dedicated team which is specialized in operations, and everything leads to incident management, crisis management. It's unavoidable, and we have a watchtower which is able to do the link between everything. And again, if something beforehand in the process fail, this is where we are able to catch everything. And this is why we have this forensic team and this response team, which is available for CNES on a 24/7 basis. And I don't have specific closing remarks. Just from 9-year or 10-year experience, we know that you have to know your enemy. That's obvious, but it's better to say it. You have to balance your approach. You can go on a full technological approach. You have to everything has to be balanced. And if you don't master your basics, you will go nowhere. You can go for nice technologies and so on, but if you don't know how to patch a system or how to analyze a log, that's you're lost from the start, and everything your security system will do is useless thing, like identifying this poor animal that was trapped in our Kourou space center and identify this as a cat.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Julien. Thanks a lot for the great presentation. I like it's covering a different angle that we haven't touched yet during the event, how CNES and other large organizations are managing this huge perimeter dedicated to security. I liked how you phrased it, just an open question. Are we doomed to fail? This is super complex. Is it even possible to manage it? And yes, you have to try, obviously, and you gave us a lot of answers. One question from the chat, and I had the same in mind. It sounds like it's a huge job. Can you give us an order of magnitude of the team or the investment that CNES is making in security in terms of number of people or budget? Can you give us a bit an idea?
Well, I can't disclose any figure, I'm sorry. We have nearly 30 internal people on cybersecurity. If you mix with security, it's a little bit more, of course. We have now, as I mentioned, CyberOps. We have now a lot of contractors that came with, and this is the figure that we won't disclose, like the budget. My CISO says that we are kind of okay with benchmarking us because our figures are quite common when it comes to the percentage of what is invested in cybersecurity compared to IT. When you analyze our figure, it's nearly it's something very common that you can meet everywhere.
That's exactly what mentioned Patrick Nicolet yesterday in the opening session about best practices in security for large IT companies. Also some questions in the chat about the attack that you were subjected to in 2011. So it was identified clearly that behind the attack was a state-sponsored actors. Do you know a bit the motivation or what were the reasons why you were targeted?
Yeah, as I said, when we analyzed the 100 emails we received and to whom they were targeted and the spoofed identity, we knew very quickly that it was targeting an Earth observation constellation mission, which is called Pleiad. It's a dual mission, so it's at the same time it's a military one and a civil one. So it was targeting, as I told you, people from HR to operations. So it was really wide, and we never knew for sure what was looked at because we blocked everything very quickly. Well, we would have done it differently right now, but at that time we cut everything as soon as we could. But of course, it's always hard to know because you know they have very attackers are in that case when it's state sponsored they have office hours. So of course they compared to us they were using different time zones, but we knew that we had two different teams in front of us. One team that was targeted at what we call the lateral movement within our information system, and the other one was a team of analysts that was tasked with gathering information and tasking the penetration team to move from different system to system. We caught it early because our chance in that case was that one of the 4 codes craft for CNES was poorly developed, and this is why we spotted it on our report from the proxy servers. And when it became top 1, it was people can tell you at CNES the moment it happened. They can picture you the meeting. We found that.
Oh wow!
And it was everyone in the room knew that we were under attack just looking at figures. So that was and in that case you try to understand but not too much. You have to act.
Yeah.
You have to protect, and then you try to understand with what you have and what you're left with.
Yeah, Alex, your reaction to Julien's talk?
No, I think that's very interesting, and it's really like a very good example of how let's say cybersecurity has to be managed in such organization. So it's very interesting to see. Like it's all the best practices implemented. I don't know if we have time to take more questions or
let's take one last one and then we'll welcome Massimo Mercati.
So I'll take one from the chat. So the question asks, what made you choose ISO 27110 over ISO 62443? So 62443 is so please go on.
Yeah, no, it's just a benchmarking. We exchange with other agencies, and at that time it was a nice cybersecurity framework, which was a common base to exchange. And we just needed a practical tool. That's what we went for. And but it's again like every standard, it's only a tool. The result depends on what you are making with. We also have a lot of, I would say it's a multidimensional cube. You have many ways to read it because we have to comply to a lot of regulation. And each regulation asks you for a permanent reporting on your compliance level. So we have different ways to analyze things that we do, and it's always good to find a void. And it depends of what we need internally, if it's a technical discussion or an organizational one. The good thing with this ISO standard is it's covering everything from our point of view.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Julien. We could have extended a bit our conversation. You mentioned cloud was a big topic also at CNES. It's really a pity that we don't have time to cover that. But thanks again for being with us. Thank you for this very complete presentation.
Thank
you. And hope to see you next year.
Yeah, and we'll talk about cloud next year.
Exactly. Thank you, Julien.
Thank you, Julien.
And the incident we had. Thank you. Bye.
Exactly. Thank you, Julien. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. We are running slightly late, but then we'll be able to catch up during the break. Next speaker is also a heavyweight in the sense that he's the head of security at the European Space Agency. So we are very happy to have Massimo Mercati with us this morning. Maybe just while Massimo is getting ready with the slide sharing and everything, Alex, just also coming back to Julien's presentation, really it made me realize the complexity of the job to secure such a large system. The surface of attack is extremely large. It takes a dedicated team. how do you do that if you're a new space operator and you don't have 30 people in your security team?
Well, I mean, of course, for new space company or startup, you have, let's say, the attack surface is a bit smaller. So of course and that's where there is an interesting topic of relying on, service provider. Of course, the service provider has to cover the risks, and it's up to you to check whether those risks are covered. So it doesn't just not by blindly accepting the service offering, but really looking at what kind of risks are mitigated and how.
Yeah. So it's about also to be able to challenge what you're paying for, right? To audit the service
just
you're
not
buying.
forgetting security.
Exactly what we talked yesterday about cloud services. Because it's about trust. Can you trust the cloud provider? James showed us really clearly that you don't want to trust your internet service providers. And also the way that CNES is communicating about this attack that happened in 2011. This is also something we see. This is modern practices to disclose, to say this is what happened.
Sure. I think it's important to share. It's important to share the key learnings and for all of us to improve.
Yeah. And before we welcome Massimo, I also noticed in Julien's talk another great philosophical remark. Alex, you mentioned yesterday. You have to know your systems as like a way of designing and implementing security. And Julien said you have to know your enemy.
Yeah, sure.
It starts like that. Know your enemy. Know who might be able to attack you in the threat modeling.